podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
House of Cards is definitely crashing down. That we can be absolutely certain of, but it's just whether it's crashing down financially as well.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Well, that's very true, yes. I thought, actually, Oliver Kay wrote a nice piece in The Athletic, and a weekly plug for The Athletic, on, let's sort of compare and contrast piece on United's fall from grace on the football front and continued sort of strong performance off the field. I think we'll come to that in more depth later in the show, but concluded it by saying, would we see a different approach and a different rhetoric if the financials weren't going so well? Of course we wouldn't. They'd never let it get to that point. And I think that's, it seemed like a nice summary of this club in a nutshell. Mismanagement has taken us to this point on the field, but there's no way they'd accept that when it comes to money, and Edward would be out. Anyway, should Edward Wood be out after United's latest defeat? Should someone else be out? What did you think about the West Ham game? And I guess first, talk a little bit about Astana. Not a lot to say about that.
I just first of all should say that producer Tom found our attempt to prorogue this podcast to be unlawful, so we've had to come back, even though it was hard to think that we might actually want to talk about anything after those games. I mean, the FC Astana game is...
He's frustrating the will of the people. That's what he is. There's no way the people out there want to hear this podcast.
Absolutely not. The Astana game was very boring. The Mason Greenwood goal was absolutely fantastic and does hint at a bright future for... I mean, it's not a surprise that Mason Greenwood's got a bright future ahead of him, but actually in terms of attacking play, our problem has clearly been being able to break down deep-lying, stubborn defences. And, well, stubborn's a strong word. Deep-lying defensive of any emotional nature. But Mason Greenwood, in the end, did do something absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
A moment of brilliance to carve them open. And it was a fantastic goal. And honestly, like in a game that was incredibly unmemorable, there's two things I remember about that game. One is the Tuanzebe chant, which is, as you pointed out, got a little bit repetitive for your tastes. But I can see why Tuanzebe diddy-dum-diddy-do. Axel is addictive to do, and you probably just don't want to hear it on telly for half an hour. But anyway, that and the fantastic Mason Greenwood goal, and the rest of it, I thought it was a bit of a shame that Gomez wasn't able to kind of work his magic.
Yeah, couldn't really get into the game, could he?
No.
I mean, look, I wouldn't call it a disaster of a game, but he didn't really. He wasn't able to influence the game in the manner to which we would have liked him to have done, but.
Yeah, exactly.
He is like 18 or something, and it's his first major game. So.
He was just not able to show what he can do, which is that is unfortunate because but Mason Greenwood was absolutely able to show what he can do. And do you know what? One of the things that's a weird thing to say, but against West Ham, blimey, did we miss Mason Greenwood?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, he Greenwood again. He wasn't in the game all that much, right? He's trying to drift inside a lot. I mean, he didn't get a huge amount of the ball, but he finished his chance very well, and that's what he does. I mean, he scores from every single angle, and left foot, right foot, head, anything, And Ollie's already said he's basically the best finisher at the club, and it was kind of fairly pointed a couple of weeks ago when he talked about how Rashford and Martial had to catch up. In terms of the finishing, and it's a kind of interesting contrast this week because I noticed after the West Ham game also awful lot of frustration with Marcus Rashford and his finishing, and he missed a couple of good chances against Astana as well, and it's probably the weakest part of his game. I mean, he has got nearly 50 goals at the age of 21, which is a very rare event in the big Euro league. So I think a lot of people are quite premature trying to write him off, including Jose Mourinho in the pundit's chair. But the contrast with Greenwood was kind of interesting, wasn't it? Because Greenwood got one half chance and finished it beautifully.
Well, he didn't get one half chance, did he?
He created it himself,
yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. So, yeah, I mean, people hammering Rashford against West Ham, a game that he pulled up injured halfway through.
Oh yeah,
like,
I mean, look,
that's not the kind of injury that like magically suddenly happens.
No, he
really?
played the second half of last season with an injury. Ollie confirmed that over the summer, and he that obviously affects your level of performance. But the other thing it does is destroy the argument, which I've seen from too many people, that Rashford doesn't care. He bloody does. He's going to play through half a season with an injury. He clearly wasn't fit coming into the West Ham game because he was treading water really quickly, and it looks like a muscle injury which could keep him out for some time.
Yeah,
which is desperately unfortunate because we finished that game with Jesse Lingard at a false number 9, which is, I mean, we said in the summer, didn't we? It's not going to take much for United to be really short up front, and here's the proof of that pudding.
Yeah, and I don't know. The thing about that West Ham performance is it was dismal. I have to say, about a minute before they scored, I messaged a few people being like, yeah, this is terrible, but we do look a lot more defensively well organised than we did this time last year under Mourinho in this equivalent fixture. And then, like, massively, Maguire and Ashley Young both got caught ball watching, as you said, and what's his name took his chance really well, didn't he?
He did, unlike Paul Pogba, who's just headed over the bar from a beautiful position.
Yeah, we're both watching the Rochdale game. That's a high XG chance that Paul Pogba's missed, but it's very good to have him back in the side because
boy did we miss that creativity against West Ham. Yeah, I mean, look, Pogba has a collection of people who really, really hate him, and including an awful lot of weird comments like, "Just get him out the side. I don't care if we're relegated," and "Brexit means Brexit," and stuff like that. So, which I don't understand at all. United desperately need some quality in midfield, and without him, there is almost none. And Scott McTominay was a very willing runner against West Ham. But that's it, right? He's our best midfielder apart from Pogba, and he's very one-dimensional still. Lots of heart, but he's got a long way to go until he's a quality player. Nemanja Matic and Juan Mata, they're both done at this level. I mean, they just haven't got anything at all.
Mata, I mean, Matic, we kind of knew, obviously, and I think we knew really that Mata was done. I mean, the fact that when we were talking about Jesse Lingard playing so badly and discussing Mata coming in, there was no hope in that. But it was absolutely atrocious. Both of those performances were genuinely atrocious, and it's really a big problem because they're actually two pillars of the squad. If you look at the squad balance, if you imagine peak Juan Mata and peak Nemanja Matic in that squad, it's massively improved, isn't it? So there's almost like a kind of part of the squad building has been based on hoping that they're not finished, but they both look completely finished, and that's
yeah. I mean, look,
a shame and a problem.
Matic has looked completely finished for 18 months now, and he's getting worse, but he has. When Mata, I think I was able to rationalise some reason for giving him another year. They gave him another 2, and in fact 3 with the option, the one-way option, and it just doesn't. It looks like a terrible decision already, doesn't it? But United were so short on numbers in midfield, and the club clearly not willing to spend the money on new midfielders, and so they gave him a new contract. United are going to reap what they sow here, and I suspect we're going to talk about this quite a lot on this podcast. But the decisions made in the summer are coming back to haunt us already.
And the thing that I did find slightly frustrating about the West Ham game and the response to it was, it was absolutely abysmal. But it was always going to be some abysmal stuff. Even assuming, and I don't think this should be taken as read by any stretch of the imagination, obviously, but even assuming that Solskjaer's a good enough manager and that the club are able to execute a long-term strategy for the first time in however long, 10 years minimum. Even assuming that there was going to be games like this along the way, where we're not far enough down the road and the right collection of injuries hit us at the same time, and we just are bad. So I did think there was a degree of like, oh my God, United are rubbish. It's like,
I mean,
well done,
where's the shock?
Like,
the thing that worried me about this game was not so much, this looks like a young side that's that could be on the right kind of trajectory. It looked the opposite. Right.
No, but that's not what I'm saying. But like the reason it didn't look like that wasn't just because it's not that. It was also because the young players that would be needed, the young talent that's being nurtured, was either fit or not fit or ill, or do you know what I mean? Like Mason Green would have played that game if he was well, wouldn't he? You know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, do you want to talk about some individual performances? So we had Rashford hobbling around, not great. Daniel James, I mean, just not in the game at all. It just didn't work for United. I mean, I kind of suspected as soon as I saw the team lineup that the game plan, which is plan A, plan B, and plan C at the moment, which is to be compact in defence and then break out at pace, wasn't going to work with Matic and Mata in there, two players who just slow the ball down. They slowed the whole game down, but they also don't distribute the ball very quickly. So, that's just not really forgivable in this setup. I can almost forgive them running through treacle because they're both shot, but then at least make the ball move quickly. But neither of them could, and I suspected it would be a pretty hard day as a result of that. And then West Ham have got some decent players, but I don't think this West Ham side is going to finish in the top half. I don't think they're particularly good. You know, I'm even kind of suspicious about some of their players that are supposed to be good. You know, Felipe Anderson does blow hot and cold. I mean, I have liked him in the past, but I really don't think he's a consistent player. That's true of Yarmolenko as well. Aller up front, I think he will score goals given the chance. You know, he looks like he has done throughout his career. Damien Rice, there's a lot of question marks about him. For me, every time I
is it whether he deserved his Mercury Prize or not?
Yeah, sorry, Declan Rice.
Damien Rice.
Yeah, bit of middle of the road guitar and Manning guitar. So no. Every time I see him, it immediately strikes me that he's a central defender playing in midfield, right? And sometimes he's had really good games, and sometimes not. And he's 20, so lots and lots of time to improve there and learn his trade, and maybe he'll go on to have a great career. So anyway, just a long way of saying I don't think this is a great West Ham side, but they were much better than United on the day.
I won't be surprised at all if they finish like at the very bottom of the top half, but you're not looking at them finishing 7th or 8th, are you? That would be a massive surprise. There was one really good moment from Mata where he played a through ball through to Rashford, and I think that was one of the moments where Rashford's lack of fitness really told, because he ended up, instead of like just ploughing towards the goal and shooting, he kind of cut back inside and the chance died. But it was a beautiful through ball, the one of the very few times when he did that and did move the ball quickly.
Yeah.
But that was an exception into the rule. I mean, the West Ham goals, the first goal was bad defending. The second goal, I mean, Aaron Cresswell worldy free kicks don't happen every day, do they?
They don't, and it's hard to place any blame on that one because it's gone pretty much in the top corner. And the first one, let's just talk about who's doing the bad defending there, because like Scott McTominay and Andres Pereira, nowhere near pressing the ball, just nowhere near. Matic, I mean, he's just a stone in midfield at the moment. He's not going to move at all. Ashley Young lets a player run off him, and instead of marking the zone, which I mean should be Maguire because it's on his side of the pitch, but it could have been either Maguire or Lindelof because they were actually close together. Neither of them attacked the ball. I've got to say that's 5 players there, really horrendous defending, like basic stuff, and it's not a good. I've got to say, it's really not a good sign. I don't think that's lack of understanding. It's not lack of time now. He's had 10 months trying to work with this most of that unit. So, really poor. And and then up front as well, it does really worries me. So the last time United actually put together a really fluent attacking performance, Chelsea aside, but Chelsea was kind of...
That was not a
It
fluent
wasn't a
attacking
fluent attacking
performance.
performance. It was kind of freakish in a way.
Yeah.
And the last time was well before the Paris game. So we're talking January or something like that. So what were there? There were 14 wins in the first 17 or something like that, and everyone felt really buoyant, and that run ended in Paris basically. And after that, I think it's 5 in 19. And some of those victories are not very impressive. And in fact, thinking that Oliver Kay piece I referenced, in 4 of them, except for the Astana game, 4 of them, Ollie had come out afterwards and said, we didn't really play well there. We got a bit fortunate.
And the Ollie thing, it's a big conversation. And obviously, like if Mourinho had been in charge when West Ham, if that game had happened under Mourinho, we'd have talked about Mourinho up to this point in the show a lot more than we've talked about Solskjaer up to this point in the show.
It's fair for us to address Solskjaer. And by the way, look, I'm not even anywhere near talking about Ollie out, because what be the point? I mean, with these owners and our investment strategy and how we run as a club, there's just no point. But there's some worrying signs there, is what I'm saying, that we haven't been able to get back on track. Even if we put it down to it's likely to be an inconsistent season, we're trying to embed some of these young players and new players.
And we're waiting, because one of the things I wanted to add to what I said earlier about the plan is we're also waiting for some of the seeds to come to fruition. This is a couple of transfer window strategy, isn't it? So we're
maybe.
Almost. I mean, in theory, no. Obviously, I'm not saying it's going to work or it's going to happen, but in theory, that would be the plan, wouldn't it?
I mean, look, I guess so. Just a broad sweep on transfer strategy, because look, there's a small picture and there's a big picture, right? The small picture is bad performance against West Ham, pretty worrying run of results. And the team we'd all like the team to progress faster than it is. I think we can accept it's going to be a very inconsistent season, right? The big picture is this is a club that is not run to be successful, win trophies, despite the PR nonsense that came out of the fans forum and what was said on the investor call this week. Because I tell you why, right? United can spend £35 million above revenue each year. We have no financial fair play problem. We can spend £650 million a year if we want on transfers, right? It's not going to happen, but can do. And we have £300 million in the bank and guiding in under £150 million a year in free cash flow, right? So there's oodles of cash. There's so much money, right? So everything that's not spent is a decision not to spend it.
We're going to come on to talk about that in detail in a minute. So I just wanted to finish off the point that you were making, which I interrupted you making about Solskjaer, which is that even with all that said, the big problem at the moment is, this is the thing that we talked about with Mourinho, is even with a disastrously run club making terrible decisions, what the manager's job is to get the best out of the resources he's got. And Solskjaer is not coming close to that. And there's no real evidence of progress, in particular when it comes to the attacking structure of the side. That is looking well dodgy, and a bad reflection on the job that Solskjaer is doing behind the scenes.
Yes, and
that's I hate talking bad about Solskjaer.
And some evidence of that is that this week there were stories, by unnamed sources in the dressing room, that some of the players believe that the approach on the training ground is a bit antiquated, and it's less about Solskjaer necessarily, because he's not that hands-on apparently, and more about Kieran McKenna, who did have a good reputation. Maybe it's getting burned now. And Michael Carrick and Michael Phelan, who take most of the sessions. Anyway, who knows whether that's really true or not, but when there are dissatisfied players, you start to see these stories, don't you?
Yeah, and that's worrying, but more worrying is what we're seeing on the pitch, which is I still think that, players switching off aside, the defensive structure looks much better, but that only really goes out. I only mean the back five, De Gea in the back four. And when McTominay plays with Pogba, that's fine. but whenever anyone other than McTominay and Pogba are the central midfield duo, and that's like, you know, that's as I think I said to you on the WhatsApp, like McTominay's great if he's the 11th best player in your team, but you don't want him to be the third best player in a team, do you? Which sort of might be at the moment. That's obviously an exaggeration, but you know,
yeah.
But
Look,
the rest
and
of
McTominay may go on to have a very fine career at United, so he is also a young player who has been progressing.
sure.
And like let's make a really obvious lazy comparison and say when Darren Fletcher first came into the side, he was vilified, and we may have talked about this last week, and called the Scottish player. And by the end of his time at United, he was hailed as a true United player who made the most of his abilities. So McTominay may get there. It shouldn't be now, though, should it?
No, exactly, and that's the point, isn't it? So I think there's something's working defensively for the most part, but nothing is working in terms of the attacking structure of the team, and that's injuries aside. You know, I do think the West Ham game is a bit of a. I think really massively overreacting to the West Ham game seems weird given the context of the specific injuries, but.
Yeah.
Generally,
well,
bad.
It's definitely amplified by social media. Of course, it's not like it wasn't always a crisis during the Fergie era if United drew 2 games in a row, right? It's just
it was.
I mean, definitely was, right? It was just played out on the back pages, and we could all dismiss it, and a few, cranks called into the radio stations. But
or wrote articles for the Guardian.
That kind of thing. Yeah, they're totally about a couple of draws in a row. Yeah, and now it's just kind of, if you live in the bubble of social media, it feels like the entire fan base is freaking out, but it's not. It's the bubble of that particular part of the internet.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I really don't. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I feel like that. It's not exactly the same, but it's a bit like, whenever anyone's racist or violent, they say, oh, proper football fans aren't like that. But actually, loads of proper football fans are exactly like that. This feels a bit like that, because I actually do think that most of the fan base, not most, but huge swathes of the fan base are freaking out. I don't think it. I think the existence of the social media bubble permeates outside of the social media bubble into real life to an extent.
Yeah, it's just, if you extrapolate some of the negative comments, basically, you could just go through the squad, right? So extrapolate the most negative stuff said about every player, and De Gea's shot, Wan-Bissaka can't cross, and he's no good in the attacking third. Lindelof's rubbish, should get rid. Maguire's made 4 mistakes in 5 games. Well, that's probably true. Shaw's done. McTominay's rubbish. Rashford's rubbish. Martial's rubbish. Mata's done. Matic is done. Just like,
I mean, a lot of that sounds like us.
It does sound like us, but it's just like it's us turned up with the hyperbole turned up to 11, and that is Twitter. I'd like to think we're a bit more considered.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. But then
8.5.
the club is clearly freaking out too, because immediately after that game, in one of the most hilarious things you were furious about this, and rightly so, but it was also absolutely hilarious to me that after a loss to West Ham in September, the club is reacting to the chaos and the vitriol surrounding the club by putting out full-blown PR statements. I mean, that was pretty wild, I thought.
Yeah, it seems to be that was actually from a fans forum on Friday night, that statement. Right.
Okay.
So rather than a post-game statement, which changes the context a little bit. That said, right, this is a messaging line that they have decided that this is about long-term investment strategy. This is about being patient. This is, we have a plan. It's working. We believe in it, right? It's exactly what Ed Woodward came on the investor call to say. He doesn't ever talk about football on investor calls, and he spent the first 5 minutes trying to set some context. So, and I think he knows, and people are saying behind the scenes he's taking some of this personally, and the criticism is getting to him a bit. And that was a message not for investors, right? Because investors having, with United already having floated a trial balloon about what the results would be, basically,
Financial results, you mean?
Yeah, the financial results.
Yeah.
Yeah. Investors already marked down like 3% on the share price in the previous 24 hours. So like they had their say. That piece was for media and others to say, yeah, we've got this in hand. You chill, lads. It's all right. But we all know that's total. So just how
that's
dumb
the
do they
problem,
think we
isn't it?
are?
And I wonder at some point, not just how dumb do they think we are, but how dumb are they? Because, like, maybe it's all just about net spend. Like, maybe it's just all about, okay, well, this is what the budget actually is, so all the big talk is nonsense, because really, you got to spend 75 million net in the summer. Or is it that actually the level of incompetence to do deals is so staggering that they're not able to get players over the line? Like this is, or is it sort of an unholy alliance of both?
Yeah, no, I'm certain it's an unholy alliance of both. Like one, you actually don't have the network and the contacts across Europe to make those big money deals happen, right? Part of the reason why I think they're now going up full Brexit FC, because like, what does the nationality of a player have to do with like building a quality side? Can't see it. So they don't have that, and they're not prepared to spend big. I mean, no, they're behaving like a club that's prepared to sell, although they're briefing that they're not, and it's a long-term game, and it's certainly not going to be a traditional investor that buys United if there is, because it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you'd make more money putting it in a bank account, and basically money's free right now, so you can't get an interest rate on something, but it's United is such a poor performing financial asset. So anyway,
But so what you mean by that is not that it doesn't generate vast amounts of money, but that it wouldn't be a financial asset in the sense of people that like buy and sell businesses and invest in business.
Yeah,
to
sure. So
growth.
if you're going to invest in shares, what you're looking for two things, right? Growth, capital growth in the value of the share, right? Price of the share goes up. And
like talk like you're not talking to people with economics degrees.
So,
like for example, your co-host.
So, two ways you make money as an investor in a public company, so one that's traded on the stock market. One, the price of the share goes up from the time you buy it to the time you sell it, so you make profit on it that way. That's capital gains. And two, you're paid a dividend based on your shareholding, and the two of them combined is often what's called sort of total return shareholders. It's the kind of Jack Welch theory of shareholder return being the most important thing a company can do. Now, United don't pay dividends to anyone who owns a Class A share. They give special dividends out to Class B shareholders, i.e. the Glazers. And the share price isn't going up because the underlying growth metrics, like there's no data you can show that Manchester United is really growing substantially, are really poor. So people don't want to hold them. There's not an awful lot traded because most of the shareholding, 75% of the shareholding is held by the Glazers. They have well over 90% of the voting rights, by the way, because of the dual class structure. So which can impact on share price, but it's just it's a poor asset from a financial return. So if you want someone else other than the Glazers to own this club, it's going to be an oligarch with a mega ego or some sport washing petro state, basically.
So the reason that it's such a massive asset to the Glazers, I'm sorry if this is obviously very basic to you, Ed.
It's very different from that. It's a weird. You're in a weird situation where actually it's a great investment for them because they didn't really put any of their own money in. It was borrowed money. A great leverage buyout that Ed Woodward did for them when he was banker at JP Morgan. So it's made them loads of money. If they sold today at below market values, if they sold at say $2 billion, they'd still make tons of cash. Tons of it.
and it's also there's no imperative on them to sell it, because you can be a business that doesn't look like a good investment opportunity that generates vast amounts of money.
Right.
That's the thing.
And they take 22. Well, they took 22 million in the last half of last year, and then something else in the first half. So their living expenses are paid for by the club. It's their ATM, and if they ever want a retirement fund, they sell the club.
So, what are the headlines from the recent financials then, that investor call? What are actually the takeaways from a financial point of view?
Actually nothing revolutionary in a financial sense. The call was fascinating just because of the messaging was different than normal. I sit on these stupid things once a quarter. So what have we got? Headline revenues up to 627 million. It's an increase of about 8%. It's almost entirely down to an increase in broadcast revenue, which is entirely down to the being in the Champions League. So commercial revenue was actually slightly down at 275.1. Broadcast was up, as I said. Matchday revenue was slightly up, but less than like £1 million over the year. And EBITDA was up, right? So this is like before you start doing accounting adjustments, your free cash flow. And
this is that's like the most 2010 Rankcast word that exists.
Yeah.
It's the word EBITDA. That's like every other word on this show once upon a time.
So you take all of that, and then you take off taxes, you take off any special deductions, and you amortize all your assets. And in United's case, pay a little bit of a tax, but it's actually company registered in the Cayman Islands and floated on New York Stock Exchange. So there's some efficiencies from that, shall we say. Deductions, there was actually a special deduction this time around of about £20 million to pay off Mourinho and his team. And amortization was pretty high, actually, in the well over 100 million, although the CFO, Mike Batty, guided that to be lower. Just, United, it's to do with how many players they renew on new contracts. You start amortizing differently, how many you've bought in the previous years, and you're writing off as they go through their contract. So it's not necessarily an indicator of the future, and that leaves an operating profit of about £50 million, right? The interesting stuff is what I said. There's a pile of cash, right? So gross debt's over 500 million still. It's really not moving at all. The interest paid went up a little bit because of forex changes, and net debt's at about just over 200 million because United have 300 million pounds in cash in the bank.
That's mad, isn't it?
It is, and then they attached this thing to the guidance, which was basically a facility for selling more shares. I think Bloomberg erroneously reported that the Glazers plan to sell $400 million worth of shares. It's telling the market that they are sort of reserving the right to do that. They might do. Of course, they have sold off a bunch of blocks of shares. They would sell off B-class shares only. A-class shares only, so non-voting right shares, presumably, so they can keep control if they wanted to raise more money. I don't think it looks very efficient to really actually pay down much of that debt if you're the Glazers. Obviously, fans, we'd probably like the club to be in a safer position, a better position. But for them, doesn't make a lot of sense. I think if they do sell off more shares, it would just be to take cash.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very important for those of us who have had a sort of crash course in leverage buyouts and share ownership and all that stuff in the last 20 years, that these kind of shares can't generate a change in ownership, right? Because they don't confer voting rights onto the shareholders. Right. Is that right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, I mean, the best you can do by buying these shares is make some return, but you are not going to be able to force a purchase. So this is not like when Coolmore were buying up shares in United prior to 2005, and then the Glazers started doing it as well, and there were these kind of competing blocks of share ownership, and then the Glazers bought out Coolmore and forced a sale. Basically, it's not like that. They're not going to do. They structured it in much the way many tech companies are structured. So they have total control for as long as they like. and they can just keep milking it. And in a sense, right, although everyone freaks out about the share price, I think it's probably important to remember that it doesn't really matter until they decide they want to sell. Yeah, it's not that important. So it's only paper money, right? So you'll see headlines saying, £300 million wiped off United's share value. In fact, it's lost almost $1 billion from its high point, 52-week high. It doesn't matter. They're not, unless they're actually going to sell. This is irrelevant.
And also, that metric is only relevant when you compare it to the market as a whole, right? So, like, shares have had a bumpy ride in recent years. In this country,
6
certainly.
months,
I guess they floated on the New York.
Yeah, they're floating on New York, and it's been a tough 6 months in New York. Yeah.
Worth saying that we're recording this during the Rochdale game, and I've just seen a player come on, and I've never heard of him.
Brendan Williams. Yeah. He's a very nice left back. I like him a lot, and he's
great.
I mean, given United's problems in that area, he's definitely an interesting one to watch. I mean, super young, very callow player, but very, very talented, classy on the ball, can defend, good going forward, plays with either foot.
Right.
So yeah, he can play in either fullback position, but he's definitely left side is the preference there. So yeah, he's very nice. United had 13 shots in the first half, still 0-0, 3 on target. So different players, same result.
Well, except did we have 13 shots against West Ham? I haven't looked at the data, but let's not go back to that West Ham game. We're playing Arsenal next after Rochdale. Pogba's back. I guess Martial, I don't know, actually. I have no idea what the prognosis is with Martial, but we obviously could very much do with him back. Arsenal, an interesting side. It feels like they are also, I mean, us and them is like the Spider-Man meme of the two Spider-Mans looking at each other and pointing at each other. Once great clubs deprived of their formerly great manager, although ours was good all the way through, and just deep in the mire of crisis after crisis. But it does feel like Arsenal have got substantially more emergency firepower when the rest of the team is rubbish than we have at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I think their attack is the thing that will get them into the top 4 if they're going to make it there, for sure.
Yeah. And they had a weird result at the weekend, and they dug out a win, but they really rode their luck pretty intensely. I have no idea what their Carabao Cup result was in midweek, if they might be playing right now, actually, but I don't think that has any bearing on anything. I certainly wouldn't think it would have from a United perspective. So you wonder what the team's going to look like. I mean, I guess we're going De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire. Left back probably still Ashley Young, right? I mean, Shaw's not played in this game. Maybe Brandon Williams will start if he has a blinder of a second half here against Rochdale.
No, he won't. No. Ashley Young will be at left back. I mean, I can't see, defensively, it's going to be exactly the same back 5, isn't it? And then Pogba will come into the team, and I guess
hopefully for
Matic will hopefully drop out, and McTominay will play. And then the question mark after that is who plays at number 10. I mean, United is short in midfield that Pogba's going to have to play a bit deeper, I suspect. So short up front that maybe he should play up front as well. So I don't know. I mean, Martial will be a good question whether he's fit. I'm presuming, given the way Rashford went down with what looked like a groin or thigh injury, that he's not going to be available. Daniel James will start.
Yeah.
And then it's and depending on injuries, it's one of Mata, Pereira,
Greenwood,
yeah.
And I think Greenwood will play. That'd be my guess. I don't know why you wouldn't at this point. That Lingard, oh man, he's been dreadful again in this game. I mean, narrowly missed a header, but
the Cyber player hasn't scored this calendar year. Playing up front against West Ham was something to be seen.
And I mean, he's played as a false 10, and I don't mean that as a diss. I mean, tactically, he's a false 10, right? Hey, guess what? He's not a foot on the ball number 10.
No.
But, he's played as a false 10, now he's played as a false 9. So, but mostly he's in an absolutely appalling run of form, or the people that said he was rubbish all along were right all along.
Yeah. And look, I wonder. There's an alternative. Of course, is that Fred comes into midfield and Pogba pushes further forward, and Fred's just been rubbish all the time he's been at United. But one thing I'd say about his performance against Astana, he was at least trying to be progressive. Right, he does try to move the ball quickly and move it forward. It's often not very accurate, which is part of the problem with Fred. But there aren't too many other midfielders that are doing that.
Matic in that game, I messaged you going, oh, maybe we found Matic's level because he made like 2 good passes, and then he had 10 absolutely dreadful minutes in a row. It's like, nope, the Kazakhstani league is not the one.
Yeah, what he put
out.
Did you see the tweet Matic put out after that? He's reinstigated his Twitter account, which has been dead for months, and he put out a sort of infographic saying how many passes he'd made. I was like, fuck off. I mean, just please. I mean, part of me was like, okay, fine, put yourself in the shop window, mate. You know, I think together with a few of the things he's said recently, there's a bit of a chip on the shoulder there that he believes he should be in the team and he feels slighted for not being in the team, and he has no sense of his own level at all, which I guess many footballers don't.
Yeah, and it's a sort of necessary delusion, isn't it? Professional sports, being a professional sports person is a lot about convincing yourself that you can do impossible things. So when you can't do them anymore, until, you convince yourself of it until you can do it. And then when you can't do it anymore, it's very difficult to stop assuming that you can. So, I don't begrudge him for struggling to understand his own level, because it's one of the great quandaries of the human existence to try and do that. But
well, talking of impossible things, Chris Smalling made his Roma debut tonight in defeat at home to Atalanta, but he's getting good reviews for his performance. Chris Smallini storming it up in the Italian league.
I maintain that my main interest in Chris Smalling's season is how good the vegan parmesan alternatives he finds are. God bless him and all.
I actually had some vegan parmesan the other day. Just
how was it?
It was all right. It was quite good actually. Put it in spinach for a sort of cheesy spinach thing.
Violife cream cheese is by far and away the best mainline vegan cheese, not like fancy. Oh, I really thought we'd just conceded against Rochdale, but a goal line clearance from Aaron Wan-Bissaka meant that we didn't, although, my goodness, we are a joke. But yeah, so the Arsenal game, I don't know how to preview this game, Ed. I can't see a dramatic uptick in our performance levels. Why would we see that? What there's no evidence. There's obviously we've got players coming back, but then weren't we were playing brilliantly before they went. So I'm extremely pessimistic about this game. I suspect we're looking at down the barrel of a sort of 2-0 loss or something like that.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, on the positive side, Arsenal have started the game in the season in kind of mixed fashion. A couple of draws, loss, and they are conceding goals. So that's the thing that tells you that United may be able to get something good out of this game. It's at Old Trafford. On the negative side, we're not scoring any goals, really.
On the negative side, we're absolutely toilet.
Oh, dear. That is the negative part. And you just kind of wonder how United will approach this game, because really we should take the game to Arsenal. It's probably not going to be that way. I wonder whether this is a game where Arsenal have sort of 60% possession and United try and play on the break, but we're just not. There's no zip in our breaks at the moment. And Pogba, by the way, is extremely important to that kind of ability to transition quickly. Extremely important. Don't care what the haters think. He's just, he puts up outstanding numbers. Especially in those kind of XG chain. Sorry, that's going to wind people up as well. But especially those kind of numbers, Eden Hazard level numbers, right? His involvement in chance creation. Looks like he hasn't done himself an injury in this game, so he'll be back in the side, and that's a hope for us that we can play that way.
can't believe you've said that after 55 minutes of the Rochdale game. It's like, if Pogba gets injured now, everyone has got recorded proof of whose fault it was.
Oh, you know Brandon Williams is the United fullback. Triple step over, followed by turning back and playing it back to a midfield player. Pure Antonio Valencia right there.
God bless Antonio Valencia. He's in Ecuador playing football. Right, let's do some Twitter questions, shall we? I'm a little bit terrified of Twitter questions this week.
All right, first question from friend of the show, Joey Mangini. Since 2013, it hurts less and less as United decline. It's just become more normalised that we stink. But the level of annoyance has grown exponentially. My question is, why do we struggle against every team despite their league table position? I'm not sure the first part of the question really related to the second one. But first part, actually, I do think people have kind of, they are normalising. Yes, they're freaking out, but, and they're freaking out because United are losing bad games. But we've all accepted that our place in the league table is somewhere between 4th and 7th, haven't we?
Yeah, that's starting to feel like kind of delusions of grandeur, to be honest. The fourth part of that, certainly. Yeah, I don't know what the question is really.
Yeah, why we I think was the question.
I don't feel like that's a question we need to specifically address as a question.
Devil7 says, is Paul done with football journalism? I know he left Bleacher Report a while back. Are there any plans to return to writing?
Yeah, I am 95% done, but I have just written a script for a TIFO video last week, and I've got another one in the pipeline that I'm going to write, and I'm going to go and be on the TIFO podcast in October as well, and do bits and pieces of video stuff with Full Time Devils. But in terms of writing more regularly, it's a very sort of occasional borderline hobby at this point. I'm certainly not interested in a proper writing job. I know this is like a very weird thing to say. For a lot of people, it would be like a dream job. For me, it was a very beautiful opportunity because it meant that I could give up my office job to actually pursue the work that I'm really passionate about, which is as a counsellor and psychotherapist, and that's what I'm doing full time now. I run my own practice. Email me if you want rates.
I mean, I'm just going to say, I think there might be quite a few Manchester United fans who need your services.
Yeah, I work via Skype, so anywhere in the world.
Nice. Are you part of that platform they advertise on podcasts all the time?
No.
It's like the Uber for therapists.
All proper independent stuff around these parts.
Related question. Mike Oxsmall says, just how close is Paul to quitting the United podcast game?
I don't know. You won't let me, basically. This is the prorogation thing. I'm like, maybe this should be our last year. And you're like, nah, people like it. Yeah. All right, fine.
Mike adds, guy sounds like he's done with it. Abso done with it. Ed's keeping it together.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm not sure that's true.
I don't know what to say about it anymore, which is the big problem. Like this week... I don't feel like I've added anything of once again. I don't feel like I've added anything of value to the conversation around United. We're just repeating what everyone knows, but it's everyone. You need something to listen to when you're at work, don't you?
That's right. So. Andrew Yaxley, who is a Portland Timbers fan, so therefore a scumbag. What activities do you do on a regular basis that are more painful than watching Manchester United?
Oh man, so I've been trying to do crunches, which you and I have talked about, because I'm trying to get in shape as a general principle, and that's generally going well. Like it's certainly better than it's been for many years. But when I started doing crunches, that was as painful as watching Manchester United. Quite quickly, the pain was a lot less though. So
no, that's true. So I'm 3 years into my insane fitness schedule, so I can do. I do a couple of hundred different types of crunches every morning as a warm myself up for the day. So you'll get there.
I'm absolutely buzzing when I get to 30, by the way, like buzzing. 3 reps of 10, like that's unbelievable scenes.
Yeah, I do that in the evening as well.
Yeah, of course you do.
Yeah, stomach like a washboard, honest. Yeah. McSauce, Shitting House FC Ultra says... also that James Boy on Twitter. Also, now I've read
Oh.
your breakdown of the financial call, can we feasibly use the fact that they don't seem to care about the debt to just build a new stadium? And where would be the ideal for such a build? Interesting. Yeah, I mean, United actually, given the levels of revenues and what a stadium costs, could leverage a new stadium pretty easily, I'd imagine. Might be, given that there is a stadium there already, better spending the money on actually like maintaining the current ground before it collapses around our ears, because they really haven't spent much on it. Although they said on the call they'd been spending capital on the stadium. And I think a lot of fans would say, where exactly? I mean, maybe they've got some plush new corporate boxes or something like that.
Do they mean the murals in the Alex Ferguson stand when they renamed it Alex Ferguson?
I think that's it. Yeah. Not a lot of investment in the stadium. Where would you build a new stadium? I mean, you just stick it in the car park opposite the East Stand, wouldn't you?
I guess so, because you already own the land, and I don't know, you wouldn't want to move somewhere. I don't know the physical geography of the area and the available large scale.
They own loads of the land
property
around there. Yeah, United have been buying it up. So yeah, there's. I mean, I'm 100% certain it's not in the plans, but could be.
Be quite funny if they built it to spoil Hotel Football's view in Retribution.
It would be pretty petty, wouldn't it?
That would just benefit Hotel Football, to be honest. So, they're not going to build a new stadium, right? I mean, the only reason you would do it for money is if matchday revenue could be greatly enhanced, and I don't see how you could do that. Say we magically transplanted Spurs' new stadium, but with a few more seats in it, to where Old Trafford is. Would we really be making loads and loads more money in matchday revenue from the sales of I was going to say condiments, concessions is the word I'm looking for.
I mean, like, I'm lucky that I managed to get around the world and see the world somewhat, and I managed to get to sport as well around the world. And I have to say that there's a very mixed bag of stadiums. If you go to a sport in the US at one of the sort of modern grounds, either NFL or baseball or whatever, they're vastly superior. They really are built around making money, not just from like people sitting there, but from spending money. You go to Old Trafford, you're going to queue for ages to get a Champions Lager. I know they don't sell Champions Lager anymore,
because we haven't been champions for such a long time.
Yeah, no, that's right. But they're built to sell you stuff. You go to the Yankees and you'll buy a $15 hot dog and a $10 beer, and that's probably out of date now. It's probably more than that. And you won't wait very long to do it because they want to make sure that you can spend that money. So anyway,
and just in terms
the quality,
of
like Old Trafford's obviously big, but on a like kind of global level, it's not very good anymore, and it could be updated.
And even like less horrible consumer capitalism, just stuff to do for kids, and all the kind of things that you could. I mean, I know there's a strange, it's a bit of a delicate thing in British football society, because anything that you do that isn't catered for middle-aged men to shout at foreigners gets people upset. But there is room for a different type of experience to the fully hardcore football fan. And if your main interest isn't just go and passionately support Man United, which is a huge number of people in the ground are there to, just for the experience, it's not much of an experience, is it?
No, that's right. Actually, there was a report out this week saying that United would be interested in installing rail seats. And
yeah, that'd be fantastic.
That may well really help with the atmosphere. May well, you'd be giving people license to get together and to stand, which is what they want to do, and for those fans who passionately want to create an atmosphere, as they do at away games all the time, it would be giving those fans a chance to do that at Old Trafford, which hasn't been the case for 15 years.
Worth saying that moving the singing section into a big section of the Stretford End, I think, seems to be working in terms of atmosphere generation in a way that it wasn't able to in J Stand. So, although, as I've said, every time whenever you were anywhere near the singing section, them being there made the atmosphere way better. It's just it didn't percolate out from J Stand too well.
Andy McCoy says, I know it's by no means on the cards, but would removing Ed Woodward actually solve the problems? I.e., would a Glazer-appointed replacement just be the same? Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, they trust Ed Woodward and they've given him a lot of power because they trust him. But they do manage backwards, I think, right? From how much they would like to extract in dividends to how much they need to generate as revenue to how much they can get away with spending in order to fulfill part one of that equation.
Yeah, and I think there's an interesting dynamic here because I think Ed Woodward, personally, this is complete unfounded speculation based only
our favourite
on
kind of
instinct.
speculation.
Yeah, exactly. But my gut suspicion is that Ed Woodward would absolutely love to be the CEO of a Champions League winning football team. Like, I think a huge part of his kick in all of this is actually he would ruddy love to be the big I am in, you know, and held in great esteem by the United faithful as the man who engineered the triumphant return to glory of Manchester United.
Yeah, not going to happen.
No, but I do think he wishes it would.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I do.
But look, by the way,
he
he wouldn't, given the reputation he's created for himself as a financial person, and actually I do want to talk about that a little bit more. And rather than a football person, I don't think he'd get another job in this particular role at any other club, right? And he definitely wouldn't get paid as much as he's getting paid right now. He wouldn't get £4 million as the CEO of a $2 billion market cap company, unless it was a small boutique investment bank, right? So he's on a very good thing right now. Yeah, and doing a very bad job at it. So the other thing I wanted to say was actually, he's kind of, I wanted to kind of bust this myth that he's some kind of commercial genius, right? So for the last sort of 4 years in a row, United's commercials have been absolutely flat. They grew rapidly as the whole market for media, football related media grew, right? So as the globalization of the internet brought more and more people online into Twitter and Facebook and other channels and allowed greater and easier distribution of media through not only just traditional cable and satellite, but IPTV, right? This has helped globalize the game and help drive sponsorship revenues in the same way that actually it's allowed the international rights for broadcast to increase, which has got nothing to do with Ed Woodward at all. And by the way, Mason Greenwood's just scored a cracking goal.
Yeah, God bless Mason Greenwood.
God bless Mason Greenwood. Get him in the team every week. No pressure, Mason. I know you're 17, but you got to save our season. Anyway, so I just don't buy it. I think there was a stage when he very aggressively moved United into sort of regional and channel marketing, right? And that was kind of interesting. And every other club around Europe kind of copied the model. But he hasn't done anything since then. And there's no magic formula he can come up with to sell a turd to more sponsors, right? So it looks like he's maxed out that market. And now you're going to get into the situation next season when almost certainly we're going to have to take a discount on the Adidas deal when the shirt sponsorship is up for renewal and a whole bunch of other regional sponsors are also up for renewal. So it's a real problem. And on the investor call, they talked an awful lot about renewals of investors, like not bringing new ones. And it was a really interesting line when they said, it's all very good. Everyone gets excited about new sponsors, but renewing our current sponsors is just as good.
Like a new signing.
It's like a new signing.
Talking of signing, worth pointing out that Phil Jones probably didn't say sacked in the morning on that.
He did. Definitely did. Yeah. There was a bunch of lip readers said he did.
Yeah, it must be.
Whatever he said, Ed Woodward was angry.
Well, Ed Woodward could have been angry at any number of people in or around Phil Jones at that point.
I actually thought, if he was angry at Phil Jones for that, he needs to look in the mirror a bit because his facial expressions and throwing his hands up in the air, he's got to know he's on camera as well. And he did not look like a man who was calm and cool CEO. He looked like a man who's annoyed with the team.
Yeah, and I can't remember. Sorry, I can't remember who even asked the question. It was such a long time ago. But the thing about replacing Woodward is, if you replaced Woodward, you would replace him with more than one person, and that's where you could potentially see some genuine progress, assuming that the aim of the ownership was to win. Like, which there's no evidence
No
to
evidence for
suggest.
it at all. They talked about he called it head of football. He said there's been a lot of speculation about head of football or director of football, technical director. We think our system is working.
That's brilliant. Can I just start to say I think I'm really good at maths, and now it just turns out I'm really good at maths, even though I'm not at all good at maths.
Yeah.
I think my bank account is like so full it's bursting. I think we're winning so much we're bored of winning.
We're the winningest.
Yeah,
We're not the winningest. If only it was American sports, we'd get all the best new players, wouldn't we? Guri Daliwal says, "Why has Solskjaer implemented a system which heavily depends on a number 10 when we clearly don't have that kind of player?"
it's a very, 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 very good question, and I'm a bit disturbed that I haven't thought about that as being an important
I think we've talked about it
question.
a lot because you could play Pogba there and he would be a very good number 10. But we really needed to have replaced Fellaini and Herrera and get another player in before that. By next summer, of course, because I don't believe we'll buy anyone in the winter window. Matic will be gone for sure, and there's every chance that Pogba may well be as well. We may need to buy 4 midfielders.
Well, Pogba ain't going to go and join Mourinho at Madrid, is he? Although I think they might be top of the league, La Liga now, so maybe Zidane will keep his job for a bit.
Yeah, we'll see. There's tension between him and El Presidente for sure.
I think Brandon Williams. Oh no, he's just getting booked. I thought he was going to get sent off. Oh no,
nice.
it wasn't even him. It was someone else altogether. Essentially, you can't podcast and accurately cover football matches at the same time.
We can't really podcast. We can't really accurately cover football matches and then podcast them about them. To be honest, so doing 2 things at once is difficult. Vivek13 asked, "Will we be violating FFP? We spend 1 billion in the next 2 windows." I'm not saying we will. Just in case. Well, yes, we probably would be. I mean, basically, it's on a rolling 3-year basis, and United can spend, as I said before, 35 million over revenues. So we could spend somewhere in the region of 1,900 million over 3 years. So we could spend the billion and then just not spend much in the next few years. We would probably go bust though, because we don't really have the cash flow to spend that money.
Worth a gamble, worth a punt. Yeah, you would need to spend probably 300 million on this team to make it any good, though, wouldn't you?
And we've been going on for some while. So last question. This is a good one, actually. John Jenkins says, "Looking forward to us being knocked out of the 2021-2022 UEFA Conference League in the quarterfinals by Efsan Partizani Tirana on away goals. Is a third tier of European competition really necessary?" Absolutely is not. And I just don't understand this. I do not understand this competition at all. Do you think broadcasters are going to pony up more money for the champions of Albania versus the third place Danish team?
Right. No, if that's a sincere question, Ed, then I feel like I know the answer to that one.
I know. Well, the thing is, there's 15 clubs from the Big 5 Euro leagues in the Europa League. There's only going to be 5 in the Conference League, which is just a fantastic name because, is it going to be part-time or, are the amateur teams of bus drivers? Probably, actually.
Vauxhall are absolutely buzzing to badge it.
I know. So this is designed for smaller leagues around Europe. Problem is, if you finish 8th, right, if you win the Carabao Cup, or depending on if the Carabao Cup winners qualified for a higher level competition, if you finish 8th, you could be stuffed into this competition. I mean, just how awful would that be, having to play like possibly 18 games against third-rate competition?
It's absolutely ultra football detention, isn't it? Right. So I was half holding out for us getting to the end of the Rochdale game, but let's assume that United have gone on from here and won 7-0. It's 1-0 after 74 minutes.
Could happen. I'm not ruling it out.
Does this have a bearing on your prediction of the Arsenal score?
No, and
you're gonna predict a draw, aren't you?
Yeah, I probably am I. Well, you see, now you've called my bluff now, so I'm doubting myself. No, I'm gonna predict a 1-1 draw.
That's given the state of us at the moment, that is like Ed predicting a 10-0 loss. Just if you look back on the history of the Rantcast, the times he predicts draws are when we play absolutely elite teams or when really he thinks we're going to lose and doesn't want to predict it. All right, I think sadly I'm going to predict a 2-0 Arsenal win. And here's hoping my ridiculous pessimism is swiped off the face of the earth by the glorious winds of the Solskjaer Revolution, which finally pick up some steam again. Patreon backers, stay tuned for more content. Everyone else, we'll see you next week.
Thanks a lot for listening to this nonsense. Bye now.
Bye.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.